My name's Issanna. I am currently a senior at UCSD, and when I was a junior here, so last year, I got a call. I was, dealing with being a full-time student. I was a full-time mom with a 1-year-old, and I got a call that my mom is in the hospital and she's just not doing well. She's having delusions. She doesn't know what year it is. She's calling my dad by her sister's name. She's very confused, and it's very out of the blue. Now, my mom's been sick. She's had multiple sclerosis for about 15 years diagnosed, and like her quality of life hasn't been super great. She hasn't been very mobile, but my understanding with that disease is you can live a very, very long life with it. So hearing that she was just all of a sudden not doing well, I had last seen her in January for the holidays, and this was the beginning of May. I was just really surprised and taken aback, and my dad said, she might pass away. And okay, so I really quickly had to figure out, what do I do as a student to make sure that if I needed to just leave and be with my mom, that I could do that and just concentrate on that. So I sent emails to all my teachers, to the advising office of my major, and to my college, just letting them know what was going on. Now, this is also right before finals, so I didn't want it to sound like my mom's sick, I felt like I needed to be really transparent with the severity of the situation. And then my mom went home. She was home. We had conversations. Everything seemed to be fine. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, everything's all right. I'm going to get through school. There's only a few weeks left. And then I'll go and be with her over the summer and help her. But then all of a sudden she was back in the hospital, and my dad said, they're sending her home, but on hospice care. And so it could be an hour, it could be a day. And so I immediately just had to send off the email saying, I gotta go. And it was just me and my 1-year-old. We flew out across the country to be with her, and I had 5 days with my mom, taking care of her and taking care of my son. So my son was 1 at the time, and so he didn't understand what was going on at all, and I wasn't really sleeping. He would be up, maybe he'd go to bed at 10 p.m. because of the time change. We were on the East Coast. And my mom was very aware that she was dying, and she was very scared. So she'd be up till about 4 a.m. So I'd stay up with her, singing to her, reading to her, trying to take care of her. And so she'd go to bed around 4, and I'd get, maybe 2 hours of sleep before my son would wake up. And so I was going back and forth between caring for the two of them. So I was very sleep deprived, and I wasn't eating. And I've never seen anyone dying, actively dying. And so seeing my mom not look like my mom, right? She was very kind of curled in a ball. She couldn't straighten her hands. And, one day, she said to me, I feel myself slipping away, and I had to tell her it was okay. And, one day I'm holding her hand, and the next day I was holding it, her hands had turned black because her heart was slowing down. So, her feet and her hands, and really watching my mom turn into what looks like, for lack of a better word, like a zombie, right? Like a horror movie creature, and still just being in that moment of well, she needs me, so it doesn't matter how upsetting it is and stuff. So she passed away at 1:18 in the morning, and my best friend flew out to be with me. My husband was actually off on tour with the band, so he couldn't be there. So I was holding my mom's hand while my best friend held my other hand, and I had to take a lot of time for myself in that. I actually developed what's called acute stress disorder. So it's very similar to PTSD as far as I kept having nightmares about my mom dying over and over. Kind of just having flashbacks of seeing her die, and it's just lots of anxiety. I started having panic attacks and just couldn't stop thinking about my mom. It was just very sudden, and then the way watching her die was so painful. I came back I pretty much stayed out on the East Coast all summer. And I came back and I started seeing a therapist here at CAPS on campus, which was really, really helpful because I didn't know how to deal with any of it. I had to still be a full-time mom. I had to be taking full-time fall classes. I had to finish taking all of the finals for my spring classes. So how it works is when you take incompletes, you have to finish the classes by week 10 of the following quarter. Luckily, there was summer. Now, if this had happened over winter quarter, I would be trying to do that in spring quarter. And I definitely, even having that long 3.5 month summer break, it wasn't long enough. And if I wasn't full-time in classes, then I wasn't going to graduate on time. I wouldn't get all of my financial aid. And I just felt really stuck. At the same time, I was applying to graduate programs, and I tried at the beginning of the quarter to be really positive, like I can do it, I can do everything. And then my son contracted, it's called hand, foot, mouth disease. And so it affects young children, and he doesn't even go to preschool. He got it at a playground, and then I got it, and I'd never heard of it. And apparently if you don't get it as a kid, you can get it even worse as an adult. So here I am, week 2 in fall, in a wheelchair because I have all these sores on my hands and feet that I can't walk, trying to do all these things and feeling really helpless. And so things that helped me get through that, again, was seeing somebody sometimes twice a week, but usually it was once a week for the first quarter at CAFS. Usually they would refer you off campus, and I just had to say, look, like I'm a mom and I'm on campus and I just really need help like right now and not be driving all over the place. And they were really helpful. And then I also belong to Psych, which is the International Honor Society for Psychology on campus. And so I had something to do once a week. If you don't have a kid, you can probably do much more, but I had something that I was responsible to do every week that was fun, that wasn't school, and it wasn't at home being sad, because if I didn't have a kid and I didn't have, like, say, that to go to, I would probably just want to be in bed crying because I was just so sad. So the only real way to get through a really big traumatic event is to talk about it, and that's usually the last thing that people want to do. So it's a practice of like actually writing out everything that happened in detail and talking about the events and what they made me feel in therapy. And a lot of people will kind of keep all that stuff bottled up. And so I definitely had to have people I could check in with, like, you know what, I'm feeling really sad, I'm feeling like I can't handle things, and you know, and then talking about why that was and what was coming to mind. I think dealing with these things, especially the loss of a parent, or if it any like really close family member, you know, could be a sibling or whatnot, is extra challenging while you're in that culture of going to school and it's all about school. And then another thing I had to do was really be forgiving of myself with, as a student, you know, for me an A- is gross, like a B, like forget, you know, and so when I was coming back and I was taking all the fall classes and spring classes, I really had to be a better support system to myself and a better cheerleader of like, it's okay to not do everything perfect right now. And you know, and I did get some B's, and I had to not be mad with myself. And that it's really easy as young adults to have those moments, right, of not appreciating your parents as much, right? It's part of development and things. But you only have one set of parents, whether you have a mom and dad or 2 dads or just a mom. You just have those parents, and when your mom's gone, like you'll never replace your mother. So appreciating that time, I definitely appreciate her just a little bit more in those moments you have, because I mean, other people's parents might end up getting a disease like my mom did, but anything can happen at any time. And so I think that's really important, is feeling like when a parent leaves this earth that you have had recent strong positive memories with them, and with getting through it. I think being a mom myself now, I just try to make every moment I have with my son positive, and I try to make sure that everything I do is something that my mom would be proud of. So I knew that finishing school and finishing well would make her really happy. She wouldn't want to see me just like leave and say it was too hard. Like that, I feel like she would have been really disappointed in that, because I worked so hard to get through my bachelor's degree. So I know eventually it won't hurt as much, but again, my symptoms with the acute stress will diminish more and more over time, there will always be the space that's empty in me, because again, my mom will come back. So but it's one of those things that now that I've gone through it, I feel that I can help my son, like one day understand like how better. There was a lot of things, death is really uncomfortable for people to talk about, so there was a lot of things my mom and I didn't share together that I felt like I could have been better prepared at what she wanted, how she would have wanted to spend that time, and things that I'll make sure my son knows. And just keep trying to be positive and live life as if she could be looking down wherever it is in the universe and vastness of space, and see what I'm doing and be happy.